Hello students, and welcome to part 3 of our discussion on the 1930s. We're going to switch gears a little bit and turn from politics to the culture of America at this time. And during the 30s, as you know, we had a very, very rough time in America. We were going through the Great Depression. Unemployment was around 50%. We had the Dust Bowl occurring in the Midwest and the West, and farmers were not doing very well at all. So many Americans turned to the movies to escape their dreary lives. In a movie, you go to this brand new mode of entertainment, and you could be carried away to distant worlds, into fantasy lands and fantasy stories, and kind of escape reality. And this whole concept is called escapism. It's escaping to a fantasy world to forget your problems. And many people think that's why the most memorable film of the 1930s was The Wizard of Oz. If you look at The Wizard of Oz, about someone leaving a dark, dreary, black and white world, going to some color-filled fantasy land with all these crazy characters, this is what people wanted out of the movies during this time. They wanted to escape their dreary lives. So The Wizard of Oz was the most memorable film of the 1930s. And there will be some readings on this. If you're taking my American history class in your book, it'll be on the pages listed there. Now would be a great time to pause and do those readings. Other popular films that we know about even today are Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Frankenstein, and Gone with the Wind. Even today, 70, 80 some years later, these are classics that are still talked about. Again, if you think about each of these, it's about someone, it allows the viewer to escape their world and enter into a fantasy world where everything works out and characters are sometimes make-believe and so forth. Some more about the culture. One of the leading directors of the 1930s was Frank Capra. One of his famous movies during this time period was Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And if you take my government class, there is a huge discussion and lesson around the symbolism in that movie. Also, The Lone Ranger. This was the most popular radio show, lasted about 20 years. The Grapes of Wrath was a book written by John Steinbeck, later made into a movie. And it was about Okies moving from the Dust Bowl, during the Dust Bowl area. And we've got comics became very popular during this time. Characters like Dick Tracy and Superman came out in the 30s. So again, if you think of what was going on during this time, and you think of what people were experiencing in their daily lives, it leads you to understand why these characters were very popular and why comic books were very popular, why fantasy stories were very popular. People wanted to engage in escapism, escaping their life, which was so depressing and dreary in the 30s, and being entertained by these fantasy characters. And folks, that ends part 3 and our discussion on the New Deal. Thank you for watching.